maybe what Nancy overlooked was it possibly wasn't Savannah that the jealousy stemmed from. Okay.
Right.
It could be the poison of jealousy stemming from, say, favoritism or perceived favoritism from a
Yep.
mom. Now, the little that we could find out about Annie, okay, what do we know? I mean, she's the poet, okay, she's the thinker, but she thinks more on the morose side, right? The dark side.
All right. So now we're going to start getting into it. You guys make your own decisions. You see her. I showed you the book. We listened to Cough. All right. But now we're hearing what the community has to say and painting a picture of the family dynamics, particularly the sisters, the siblings, and the jealousy. All right. Particularly that. All right. Risa says, "You own it, girl." Yes. I'm old. I'm 46 years old. You learn, you know?
And described as even being a bit too shy, right? And then you have Savannah, okay? And simply put, she is vibrant. When you think about Savannah, you think about bright colors and almost joy. She's like the opposite of Annie. She's more like the child of light to Annie's shyness. She is the extrovert. You know, Savannah became a lawyer and she went on to be like a very wealthy TV personality.
Now, listen, guys, I'm telling you, and believe me or not, you guys know.
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff.
There's people that are light workers. They work in the light and they don't mean to. Some people are just born light workers and they shine. All right. They hone in on it, etc. But I do not see that with Annie. All right. I don't want to sound weird, but how do we know there's jealousy? Well, because there are people that grew up with him. You got to remember, Nancy Guthrie bought that house in 1975. The kids grew up in that house, in that area, in that town. People know, people talk. That's why. All right. And I'll take that, Mystery Diva. I'll take that, my friend. All right, let's go.
That could possibly breed a bit of jealousy amongst siblings, right? Especially if you add into the mix that Savannah was possibly the light of Nancy's life as well, which would probably make that a pretty jagged pill of resentment to swallow. So now, if we're talking about siblings, then let's try to gauge Cameron as well. Okay, so he is the eldest sibling. I mean, today he is 61 years old, the Vermont Air National Guard that went on to rank as high as colonel, and he retired in 2018. And here's a picture: Nancy, Savannah, Annie, and all.
Now, think about this. Here's a question. And Holly, I'm so all of you guys, please let's interact. I wonder how often they talk before this. I'm not going to answer that question, but I am going to say to you, Holly, how long did they wait to call Savannah when they knew that their mom was kidnapped? And you guys got to tell me, if they saw the doors propped open, they also saw the blood in the front. Now, there's 444 people in chat. I'm going to take that opportunity to say a prayer that Nancy Guthrie is brought home. All right. For the family, for everybody's sake. Then we can focus on other cases. All right. Let's continue. I do think Annie's innocent, and I hope so. I really do hope so. All right. Veneers, huh? Annie's eyes look funny. All right. Let's continue. There's the family. We talk about fake book, because these are the kind of fake book pictures that you see, right? And I do not see light surrounding this woman. I don't get where they see that or say that.
You had spouses, children, except for Tommaso. So maybe he had a big gig that night, you know, with Early Black. Now, if you've ever watched this Today Show segment, and it was way back from 2012, Savannah goes and visits Cameron at his home and the airbase in Vermont. Now, I will say it's actually kind of cute to watch these two interact. They also feel like they are polar opposites, but polar opposites that actually kind of mesh, you know? Savannah is the silly little sister, and Cameron just looks at her, you know, like the serious big brother does. Kind of, you know, like how a big brother would look at his silly little sister, whatever, right? So he takes her out flying in an F-16, and you could almost feel the genuine relationship the two have. Okay. Now, I also must say,
see, we don't know much about Cameron, but he's never been on my radar. He wasn't the last person to see his mom alive. He you know, goes here and there. He's one of those guys that probably sees the family during holidays. So I don't know unless you know Cam or somebody knows Cam personally that can say. I don't see anything. I don't have any interest in him. Annie's the middle child, so maybe having emotional issues, being stuck between Cameron, responsible, and Savannah, the baby. Maybe. I mean, all of these are plausible because we just don't know, and that's cool. That's why I want you guys here. I want someone to say, "Hey, I think the opposite of what people are saying."
I don't feel they are super close as well, but that they do, love and respect each other. He's the big brother. Duh. He probably fell into the role, of answering his little sister's questions, right? Trying to solve their problems because let's not forget that one day in 1988, their dad just abruptly passes away from a heart attack. And he was just
49.
49 years old. Nancy never remarried after this. So basically, he was the love of her life. And now you got to think of Savannah. She was just 16 years old. Annie was 18. But Cameron, he was already 23 years old. He was a young man. And that's an age where life is still a bit confusing and you're still trying to make your way in it.
So cute. And here she's just a little ham. So that's Cameron, that's Savannah, and that's Annie. Again, you could just see their facial features and recognize them. And she's got the light, boy. There's that light shining. And, she's essentially the baby. Not, well, she is the baby because he's older. She's the middle child, right? And then Savannah's the star of the show. We know how that goes with the babies.
And to lose like a figure like your father at such an early age, you can only imagine it impacted him in such a way. So I guess it would be safe to say, or I guess to assume that Cameron was thrust into a role that maybe he wasn't prepared for, but he stood up for the challenge and he became the protector, right, of the three most important women in his life. And he probably had to do this for a couple of years, right, waiting for some.
Now, I gotta tell you, and that's cool, Cindy. That's cool if you think this has nothing to do with Nancy. I feel that it does because you can go to any person that's working on this case. I have not heard one person say that this was not a targeted attack by somebody in the inner circle. Again, the DNA in the house shows that everybody was supposed to be there, was there. There's only one set of DNA that maybe somebody else. All right. So I got to tell you, if it's a targeted attack from the family or somebody around the outside of the family, it absolutely has something to do with Nancy. But hey, you're right. On the other side, it could not.
Savannah to grow up, graduate, go to college. So once the youngest bird finally flew from the nest, I mean, Cameron would literally fly off himself, right, as he went to go join the Vermont Air Force. And this was just a couple of years later when he was 27. So I will say if his career didn't already give away to what his personality feels like, to me at least, he seems like a very disciplined, almost no nonsense kind of personality.
Yeah.
A matter of fact nature, I would say, which makes him a great person to turn to for answers. Okay. If you want the truth. Okay. And on the Today Show, she introduces her brother as the pride of the family because his position is honorable. And that's his role in the family as well, I believe. So when Savannah called him that night to tell him that, mom was missing, I think Cameron went straight into that role again of being the protector, right? The big brother that needed to give his little sister an answer. And the no nonsense answer that's coming from this man here. Okay. The first thing that came to his mind, he just said it: kidnap and ransom. And I don't think he said it to hurt Savannah in any way with that. He was
right. I think he just, with his background, guys, and what happened, and mom's gone and the blood's there, put two and two together, right? Because there were no notes, no ransom notes that we know of. Why Cameron did not pay for security alarm. Now, I gotta tell you, astrology, and many of you, I gotta tell you, go on your phone when you're done with this and check your cameras. Every single person that has a camera, you have a Ring camera, you have a Nest camera, go check it and make sure that the bill is still going through. Because I gotta tell you, I've been caught with my pants down a few times when it comes to that because I'll change credit cards, right? You get some credit card fraud and all of your bills get tossed off. You got to put a new credit card and oh shoot, I've got 30 other bills, but I forgot that one.